This pattern is about all facts across all times and all spaces. It is when you take into consideration all your work together with your colleagues' work from all areas and departments, information from clients, and even your competition. Well, reality is relative. So far, we have seen different types of patterns that represent various combinations of time and space. Overlapping activities, which is about the same time and the same space, with the example of three overlapping clients. Individual fact repetition, which is about different times and the same space. For example, when women don't finish the food in their plate. And separated facts and activities, which is about the same time and different spaces, with the example that which is about your work and your colleagues. Basically, scattered activities and facts are about the connection among all these patterns we have covered so far, about the ability to see the individual movements in your business and how they influence your business performance as a whole. At this point, you don't treat problems individually anymore, and you know the cause of urgent problems. This is when you keep track of changes over time and integrate information from all areas of your business. Now, jumping to conclusion is more effective because you see the impact of a problem in the context of the whole business and not in terms of immediate results. In terms of relativity, it is about the activities and facts from different times and different spaces. So, while the business owner and my colleagues were busy with multitasking and constantly rejecting facts from the restaurant, I was actually collecting facts and information. I was making my own priorities, try to organize myself better, and eventually uncover the main cause of most urgent problems. And it took me about 3 months. So let's see how it happened. First, I identified the three overlapping activities and types of clients, and the reason we switched to two workers per shift is because clients are in a hurry as they buy food in their lunch break from work, and they don't have the necessary patience to wait for me to jump from one type of client to another. After we made this change, there were two things that kept happening. First, clients are still in a hurry and impatient, and second, our serving process was still a mess with delays and mistakes, and I was surprised that I was still feeling the same overwhelm as when I was working alone in my shift. I thought that the workload would feel easier, but it didn't happen. I felt we were working really hard, but sales were very modest at the end of the day. Moreover, the business owner had noticed the same thing. We all work so hard, and at the end of the day, sales are very low, comparing all with all this effort. So we had again conflicting facts: hard work versus low sales. So I kept asking myself, why doesn't this change make a difference? I was wondering how come the activity still seems chaotic in spite of the fact that we were two workers per shift. At this point, I hadn't had yet the awareness and clarity of all those scenarios and patterns described so far about delays, mistakes, lack of synchronization, the difference between prioritizing clients in the restaurant and double serving, and all that stuff. I was still perceiving the activities as just busy, constantly moving in all directions, messy, without being able to articulate all those conflicting facts that I have described in the previous videos. I was seeing everything as random and individual facts. Serve clients in the restaurant, take delivery orders on the phone, running down on stairs to warm up soup, have a small fight with the cook that delays to do it, face clients' complaints for incomplete orders, clean dishes, take special orders for parties and cakes, and so on. Serving our clients was always chaotic. So, asking myself this question, why the change of two workers per shift doesn't make a difference, I started to get a vague, blurry, unclear picture of the restaurant as a whole. But I couldn't quite put my finger on it. I mean, I couldn't articulate it yet. And then things started to become clear. So I started to see we have pressure in the kitchen as the cooks and the chef are cooking all the food for the day in the morning, and because in addition to their work routine, We also had special orders for products on demand, and then we also serve in the restaurant at the full capacities, and at the same time sales are low. So this means that if the restaurant wants to increase sales, they have to hire every time new employees in order to handle additional work for higher demand, which means costs increase proportionally with sales, and they will never have profits if we keep our current internal organization. Even if they had profit, it would be with a lot more hard work. So the point is that first I identified the three overlapping activities. I made the change to workers per shift to improve the service flow, and I kept track of this change, questioning its effects, because I couldn't see any, and constantly reviewing the restaurant activity and trying to understand why the flow didn't improve significantly. Eventually, my mind is able to organize all those random chaotic activities described before into categories and a big picture at the same time, meaning overwork in the kitchen and overwork in serving. So whatever chaos you deal with right now, there is a logical explanation for it. And you have to seek to articulate it beyond this feeling of stress, overwhelm, and vague descriptions such as messy, busy, I have a lot of stuff to do, and improvised solutions, and so on. Whatever problem you have, there is a better explanation for it beyond your current perception. We all knew about the kitchen and we all knew about the serving process in the restaurant, but they were perceived individually. Once I made this change to workers per shift and constantly reviewing the activity, the mind could organize this information properly and eventually see the connection between them. That is why reality is relative, and it depends on how you perceive your problems. It is about the clarity you have in your mind about your business. It is about your ability to articulate clearly the logic of the chaos you operate in. Okay, let's move on. Then clarity kept building up. Within this chaos, the kitchen was working under pressure, and we were serving under pressure with a sense of low sales at the end of the day, relatively to the amount of work invested. So, with my little understanding of business, I could associate this internal mess from the whole business with lack of internal organization. And I felt that this could be the business model. So, can you see how clarity comes in stages? Chaos, then internal organization, then business model. And this happens by attaching words to the images in your mind, to the perception you have about your business. The point here is that you shouldn't leave your understanding about your business at the level of images. This is what most people do, and this is what business owners did. She found it really stupid to articulate what seems obvious and easy tasks. But remember that this is not about the obvious, ridiculous, easy facts individually, but about the connection among them, because this is what creates chaos in your business: urgent problems, delays, lack of synchronization, and so on. So I concluded that this internal organization should be the business model, and that there must be something wrong with it, which later on became clear. And all of the sudden, all the previous observation became clear as my mind saw the connection between the kitchen and the clients at lunch. So I realized that the business model is a total mess. I mean, the whole food for the day gets cooked in the morning, so there is a high pressure and urgency to finish the food in time for lunch. Because of this pressure, we get delays in sending deliveries because our clients were coming in the restaurant and ordering for lunch on the phone as early as 10 a.m., sometimes also 9 a.m. Most of our clients that eat a lunch were in a hurry because they were in the break from work. In addition, they were expecting to be served immediately because they knew the food was ready, packed, and on the fridge shelves, ready to be picked, served, or delivered. On the one hand, we have the model of a la carte restaurant, which is a slow food restaurant, because cooking fresh food from scratch takes time. However, the serving process is not as in a slow food restaurant where you go, you order, and are willing to wait 20 or 60 minutes for your food to be cooked. So, on the other hand, we have clients in a hurry, meaning a buying behavior associated with fast food. When you order and your food is prepared and served in a matter of, I don't know, 2 or 5 minutes. But serving efficiently food that was already prepared and ready to be served, it was not the case for our restaurant, as already discussed in the previous videos, as there were always delays and all that chaos. So the restaurant model is a combination of two different models, slow food and fast food. In that moment, I realized that everything, all the chaos we were going through during the serving process, was a mess and chaos because of the combination of these two models and because of the pressure both in the kitchen and in the serving area. The solution to have 2 workers per shift for 3 overlapping activities was an improvised solution because actually we needed a total reorganization of the restaurant activity. Now the problem was not the combination of these two standard models itself, but the fact that this combination was costly for the restaurant. The business owner didn't believe me that she won't make profits. Somehow I didn't manage to explain clear enough to make them see it. I assumed one of the reasons she didn't believe me was because there were days when the restaurant was empty. So there was still room to increase sales with our current capacity without hiring new employees or making significant changes. However, there is a difference between low sales and variable demand, and I will discuss the variability of demand in the next class. Another reason she didn't believe me is because I didn't see myself all the details of what this thing with business modeling meant. All I know is that there is a messy overwork in the serving process, messy overwork in the kitchen, sales were low, and we could barely keep up with demand. So it was definitely an organization problem, and I associate that with the business model. However, I couldn't articulate clearly what this reorganization would imply, how it would look like, but clarity came with time. And after 1.5 years later, this is exactly what happened. Sales tripled. It was also because of increase of price, not only because of volume. And the restaurant had a total of 3 or 4 new additional employees, both in the kitchen and in the serving area. And the business owner couldn't even get herself paid her modest monthly salary. On top of that, we still had the same messy multitasking random serving process with delays, mistakes, and angry clients when the restaurant was crowded. Basically, nothing has changed. Only the fact that there was more work to do and more chaos to handle. With time passing by, I took a deeper look at our activity in the restaurant, and I realized why this happened, why I was right about the business model, and why my small financial forecast came true. The problem was with the organization of the working environment in general, both in the kitchen and in the serving area. And this is the third type of solution for overlapping activities. The first one, if you remember, is reallocating resources in the working space to handle tasks better. And the second is changing the order or priority of tasks, which is about how you do things. The third type of solution that I approach now is about reorganizing the whole environment, and it can be done in 2 ways. First, reorganizing the environment means to move things around, your furniture, your machines, your desk, your shelves, chairs, tables, and so on. In our case, the business owner did this. She bought new furniture in the serving area and moved things from the left to the right, for a better design. In addition, she reorganized and extended the kitchen. Well, a lot of money and work to do this. Was it necessary? Yes, for the kitchen. Did it improve the cooking efficiency? Maybe. She didn't want to tell me. Did these changes improve the business performance, like increased profits and decreased cost or urgent problems? No, because she improved the kitchen and the serving area individually, apart from each other. And as a result, the serving process was still a mess. And this gets us to the second way of reorganization. Reorganizing the whole restaurant depends strictly on the utility of the building you operate in, because the various space rooms are organized in such a way that created delays for us. Later on, I started to see, in our example, excessive walking from the small kitchen to the serving area, then downstairs to the main kitchen. All this walk back and forth downstairs and upstairs was increasing the time for serving and was producing delays. It was forcing us to move faster and eventually make mistakes. That is why the business owner brought a heater in our small kitchen from the restaurant to avoid this working. But it was an improvised solution because the whole serving process needed a total change in organization, and this meant changing the location.